Thad, what was your favorite thing about the Edge this week?
My favorite part of Edge this week was probably doing the tournaments.
All right, and what was one thing that you learned this week?
One thing that I learned this week was that no matter how much you believe in God, it still won't save you from consequences.
Ethan, what was your favorite thing about the Edge this week?
My favorite thing about the Edge was getting to have new friends and growing closer to my existing friends.
Awesome, and what was one thing you learned this week?
I learned that God loves us no matter what, through everything.
Howie, what was your favorite thing about the Edge this week?
My favorite thing about the Edge is probably the water park.
Awesome, and what's one thing you learned this week?
I learned that we're not meant to be alone, and that Jesus is always with us in the hard times, and we should never get discouraged because he'll always be there for us.
Sam, what was your favorite thing about the Edge this week?
My favorite thing probably about the Edge was getting to know God more and hanging with friends.
Awesome, and what was one thing you learned this week?
That Jesus wants me and he always wants to be my friend.
Coco, what was your favorite thing about the Edge this week?
My favorite thing about the Edge was growing closer to my leaders and my friends.
Awesome, and what's one thing you learned this week?
I learned that there's always new things that you can learn about the Bible, and Jesus is always changing your point of view for the better.
Great. Olivia, what was your favorite thing about the Edge this week?
One of my favorite things about the Edge was probably all the games that they did, like Waterfest and Color Wars.
Awesome, and what is one thing you learned this week?
One thing I learned this week was that your friendship with Jesus, a God, can never be broken.
Wellesley, what was your favorite thing about the Edge this week?
My favorite thing about the Edge this week was the band, because I really love the music that they're playing, and it's just really amazing, and I just love it.
Awesome, and what's one thing you learned this week?
One thing that I learned this week is that God loves you more than anything else, that he created you for a reason, and that no matter what, he will always love you.
Caroline, what's your favorite thing about the Edge this week?
My favorite thing about the Edge is making new friends outside of the church.
And what is one thing that you learned this week?
That Jesus' friendship with us doesn't matter if we have sins or not.
Awesome. Maddie, what is your favorite thing about the Edge this week?
My favorite thing is probably being ready to being accepted into the Christian family.
Awesome. And what is one thing you learned this week?
That you're always wanted by Jesus and you're very important.
So Emma, what was your favorite thing about the Edge this week?
My favorite thing about the Edge was getting to grow closer to my friends and getting to know the people that I didn't know when I got here.
And what is one thing you learned?
One thing I learned is that Jesus has accepted you for who you are and he's making you the way you are for a reason.